too far. Get to glance. Looking at a shooting star. Got more than a couple of people going mad. I swear they're rooting hard. Tell them I'd be big in the game like she went and got them breast implants. I said I'm moving too fast. Didn't even get to glance. I'm ready to eat up track like I'm seated in a restaurant. If you had swag like mine, you know it's best to flaunt. We aren't hating because you aren't. Shining like it's neon. Rock like kings of Leon. Shooting stars across the galaxy. Stands out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, then I just have to leave. Shooting stars across the galaxy. I stand out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, then I just have to leave.
This is not a test.
All right, everybody, welcome to Disclosure TV. I'm trying this again for a second time. The first time I started at 9 o'clock, and the first time as I was going live, I was pushing the go live button, and right in front of my eyes, my camera just decides to uninstall itself. It literally uninstalled itself. And I had to go back in and see who was connected to my router, and behold, there's somebody connected to my router. I don't know who it was. I've got the address. I'm sure it's probably going to come up to somebody else, because that's what hackers do. And I'm not even that big of a channel to be doing that to. But I announced on Twitter, I've got 1,000 followers on Twitter now. So, actually over 1,000. So if you follow my Twitter, I do report a lot of news on my Twitter. So I put a connection, or a link to this stream right here on there from YouTube. So there was somebody connected to my router, and I had to fix that and then re-download the drivers to my camera. That's the first time I've ever had something like that happen. So anyway, welcome to Disclosure TV News. I hope everybody can hear me. The Bubba News, thanks for joining. I watched your channel today. I watch it all the time. Thanks for being here. But if anybody has been following what's been going on for the last few days, it's been odd. I mean, for some people, it's not been odd. For some people, they just see it as what it is. But a lot of us in that world, we just don't see it. We see other things happening because over the years or so, we've trained and investigated and learned to investigate other things that are going on within a story, and we get information that's leaked out to us or to other sources, and we gather that information, and a lot of it doesn't make sense with the scenario or the events that's going on. So then we report those events and scenarios to you as we find them. So if you, like I said, if you've been following what's going on, this happened a few days ago. Iran, I shouldn't say that, Ryan launched an attack on Al Assad Air Base in Riyadh. They launched 10 to 15 ballistic missiles. And during that same time, on that same day, just about on that same day, Ryan had their funeral for their commander, Qasim Soleimani, and I did air that live yesterday, I think, and you should have seen the amount of people that were there supporting the funeral. Some of them say it was fake. Some of them say it was paid. Like I saw one video where a school had forced their children to stand out in a uniform line, a uniform grid line pattern, and forced them to cry over Qasim Soleimani's death. And like I said, it's there's a lot of things that's going on with this that people really don't know about. You're seeing some of the things you're seeing in the mainstream media. They don't like to put two and two together because they're told not to put two and two together. They report just a minute amount of what's actually going on, and that's because the government tells them to do that. Like I said, if you want to, you can look up what a news embargo is. The Bubba News. If you want to, I suggest you look highly into what a news embargo is, and go investigate further from there. So, what a news embargo is basically the source of the news or the source of the information. It could be the person who it happened to. It could be a lawyer sending it out. It could be a spokesperson from the government. It could be anybody. Whoever has that information wants to send it out to the news. They send out a news brief along with a news embargo. The news embargo tells them what to say, what not to say, when to say it, and who can say it, and what time those people can say it. So say the government wants to send out something specifically to Fox News. Well, they send it to all the news channels, but it states in the news embargo that Fox News gets to break the story. It says what they can and can't say. So a lot of the information that we gather, the news sources, the mainstream media already has, but they're just told not to say it. They're told what to say and what not to say. So they have those stories, and a lot of the times that information gets leaked out. And one evidence of that would be one of the news anchors on Fox News. I think he got fired, or I don't know if it's Fox News, but one of the a live anchor gave out information, and he wasn't supposed to because the news embargo that attached to it wasn't for him. He received it like he was supposed to, but he wasn't supposed to say anything. And the information he gave out, some of the info he gave out, he wasn't supposed to say anything. So just look into what a news embargo is, because that right there will tell you everything you need to know about what the mainstream media does and who controls them. So anyway, the event for Ryan and Ryak and what's going on with Qasim Soleimani, it's no different. You're told what you're told. But my channel deals with a lot of common sense. I do a lot of investigation. I do thorough investigations. So that's what this is about. So did Ryan take out one of their own, that being Qasim Soleimani, and did they get the U.S. to help with that? And I believe the answer to that is yes. And I'm going to show you a little bit about what I found and show you some evidence that supports that. And that's what I like doing. I like showing the evidence. So a lot of people, a lot of channels they don't show the evidence. They just read it and say, hey, this is what it is, and I'm going to tell you that this is happening, and then I want you to believe it. Well, we don't do that here. We support everything we say with evidence. So, what I'm going to show you first is why I think that Ryan took out their own people, their own general. So, if you take a look at this, this is back from 2015, but it's still true. It's still true, and it's still ongoing. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, has cancer. He has terminal cancer. He's 80 years old. The man is getting ready to he's getting ready to end his leadership, basically. And I believe that after this, it's not going to be too long before that leadership ends. And I'm going to say within the next months to a year, maybe, that leadership will end. He does have terminal cancer. So it's time for the next person to take over. Now, I'm told that in order to be a supreme leader of Iran, or a Middle Eastern country, that you have to be highly religious, a highly religious figure. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is that religion has been under attack lately. Not just the Christian religion, or the Middle Eastern religions, or basically all the religions have been dumbed down. Basically, they're losing their strength amongst people, and being of a certain religion, or being in religion at all, doesn't hardly matter anymore, because people are not believing in religion anymore, especially the newer people, and that's kind of sad. So, and that does have a lot to do with this. So, in order to be, like I said, in order to be the supreme leader of Ryan, you have to be a high up religious leader or religious figure to be the supreme leader of Ryan. And I'm going to tell you, and that's why I don't think it matters anymore. And that's part of what's been going on with religion. It don't have anything to do with this specific thing, but it may. But it could be a good reason why all this happened. And like I said, religion is just going downhill. People aren't believing in it anymore. And hence why the supreme leader may have taken out his own general. Now, you have to know a little bit about General Soleimani. He was very popular, not only amongst his own people, but he's very, very popular with other countries. He's very popular with the military of other countries. He's trained militaries of other countries. He's also very into other T organizations. And that's the main problem. And this is the funeral, and I'm going to show you the funeral of part of a clip from his funeral, and let you decide for yourself how popular he really was. The news didn't do it justice on how popular this guy is.
الأحياء منهم والأموات وأنت خير منزول به.
This guy, basically, he has people following him and worshiping him. He gives autographs to people. The hundreds of thousands that are said to have been to his funeral, this isn't even all of it. This isn't even all of them. That square down every road. I have to guess there was at least 1 million people there, maybe even more, at least. And this was his funeral. And the United States decided to take this guy out all of a sudden. Now, people say it wasn't all of a sudden. He was involved in the U.S. Embassy attack, but not real. He probably was, but I just don't think that's why he was taken out. I just don't. I don't see that as a reason.
Hey, NBC
We don't
News
even know
viewers,
if he was
thanks
really
for
part
checking out
of
our
that.
YouTube channel.
We're just told he was part of that. So that guy, General Soleimani, was very, very well liked by everyone in the Middle East, and I do mean everyone. So would that give him a good reason to be taken out? Well, not in a normal situation. No, it wouldn't. He hasn't done high profile things like ISIL or anybody like that, but he has done his fair share of bad things. And the United States hasn't recently been talking about him very much, so that's why I say all of a sudden it happened. So I'm gonna show you. I wanted to show you the vehicle. I'll show you the vehicle real quick. The vehicle is important. It's really important. Here's the vehicle that was carrying General Soleimani in the airport near Baghdad. Now, they say it was part of a convoy. Well, there was no convoy. There was only one vehicle there, and I'm going to show you where this vehicle actually was in comparison to the road and, well, I don't have it. Well, sorry. Well, basically, you don't see it on here, but basically, General Soleimani was in a car filled with a few people, and it was a Toyota. He was in a small Toyota car filled with 4 or 5 people. They were on a back road by themselves with no other vehicles there. The mainstream media says there was a convoy. There wasn't a convoy. Live pictures from the scene show no other cars there except for his. They were the only car there. So, that being said, if General Soleimani, the commander of Iran was going out and meeting with foreign nations to get them to help aid, or T groups to get them aid in future T acts against the U.S. in the Middle East, his location would be unknown. He seriously wouldn't be riding around in a small Toyota car. Well, what you don't see in that picture is his car was destroyed within a barrier of guardrails, and it was. So for the U.S. to be able to strike him, the U.S., and this is what was said, the exact words that were said was, the U.S. officials scrambled to locate him in a moment's notice. Okay? I don't believe that. I believe all of this was a huge setup and then a cover-up attempt at the end. I believe Ryan, the supreme leader, told the U.S. where the general was at, his location, and what he was in. I mean, I'm not going to try to say that I know for a fact that the U.S. wasn't keeping tabs on the guy. But it's odd for such a public figure, a high-ranking military figure, to be in a small Toyota Camry on a back road where near an airport by themselves with no military escort or anything. I just don't believe it, because our U.S. senators don't go anywhere without an escort or Secret Service or bodyguards. That's just for our Senate. Our governor doesn't. Our state governors don't even do that. So they're not going to do it there. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that. They're just not going to do it there. So, adding to that, we're going to go into the retaliation of Ryan against the United States after they did that. And here's the evidence I have for that. The United States, or Ryan, gave notice to the United States by way of either Ryak or themselves prior to the ballistic missile attack. Okay, so it was, and Ryak told them, or the United States already knew that it was going to happen, and they told them specifically, we don't want to kill U.S. troops. We're telling you about this. We don't want to kill U.S. troops, and we're going to tell you about it, and we're going to blow some stuff up, and that's going to be our revenge. Now, why Ryan told them that is beyond me, because that's not what happens. When you attack somebody, you just attack them. You don't call them up and say, hey, we're going to attack you. That just don't happen. And that's not... U.S. knew Iranian missiles were coming ahead of strike. Trump announces new sanctions. That's part of the end, also part of the cover-up I'm going to show you. So, the Iranians, the U.S. knew and Iraq knew prior to that. So far we have the U.S. finding out where the Iranians' most popular general in the Middle East is at. We have them attacking him, killing him. Now we have a revenge attack from Ryan, where Ryan tells the U.S. and Iraq that we're going to attack you, and when we're going to attack you, and how we're going to attack you, and yes, even what buildings we're going to blow up. They even told them to move their troops so nobody gets harmed. Odd? Of course it is. Why would anybody tell them that? Now, later, it came out that the Pentagon knew. Of course they knew, because they were told. This was what they was told after. Now, U.S. military had advance warning of Iranian missile attack. These are facts. And this Ryan did tell the United States, we're going to attack you, move your troops. They already told them. And then this comes out. Ryan's missiles intend to kill personnel in Iraq. No, they didn't, because Ryan straight up told them what they were going to do hours prior to that. How many hours? I don't know. That's just a blatant lie. The Pentagon is straight up lying to the media. They knew it was going to happen. They knew that those missiles weren't intended to kill any U.S. soldier because Ryan had already warned them that they weren't going to. So let's go back into where the base was hit. Here's a satellite image of that base, of Al-Assad base. This is Al-Assad base in Riyadh in Baghdad. You can see the circles. If you can see them, the circles show the areas that were hit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 areas. All these buildings were storage areas or equipment areas. And as you can see the location of them, they are on the outskirts. They're on the outskirts of that military base. So if you look, nothing on the inside got blown up. Everything on the outskirts did. And that, if they were really trying to do what if they were really trying to kill personnel, like they said, those circles would have been a little further in, away, further in towards them. Ryan had all the information on the base. They knew where everybody was at. They knew where the barracks were. That base has been there a long time. They know. So this article right here tells you that the Pentagon is lying. That's straight A, misinformation to say they meant to kill. We know for a fact they weren't going to, because they were told they weren't going to. That's why I said all of this is a straight cover up and it was a plot for Ryan to take out one of their own. So next, after that, we have, the Ryan launched their missiles. They launched their missiles. They told them they were coming. Well, this is also a fact. Ryan launched their ballistic missiles. Well, they launched 10 to 15 ballistic missiles. Only a few made it to the base. Any of the bases. There were 2 bases that were said to be hit. There's been no report of. I've seen no evidence of the other base being hit except for this one. So they launched their ballistic missiles. Well, their ballistic missiles were old. Half of them didn't even make it there. And the proof of that is one of them went astray. One of those missiles didn't make it there. It went astray. Where did that missile end up? In the side of a Boeing 747 that had just taken off. Near that area. That's where that's where one of them went. So, if Ryan really was trying to attack our bases, they wouldn't have sent old munitions that were inherently flawed or wouldn't make it there or would veer off and kill a whole passenger of 747s. They're supposed to be technologically advanced. Why would they use old munitions that veer off? That's what happened to the Ukrainian 747, the Boeing. And a lot of people are saying that there was 187 passengers, 64 from Canada. I've looked at the passenger list. All the names on that passenger list had all the names and last names had Middle Eastern origins. Their last names did not match anything that come from outside that country. I looked at the manifest for that. So all the people who died on that plane were from the Middle East. Now, it's a possibility that those people were Ryanian Canadians. It's a possibility. But the manifest didn't show that anybody on that plane was an actual citizen, and the names of the people were all Middle Eastern names. So, after all that happened, the big thing. Trump's press conference. And I've said this over and over and over again, that I do support our commander-in-chief. I do support him. I think if they would let him do his job, he would be a great president. But they're controlling him too much. And by way of they, I mean the people that control our government that are behind the scenes. They're not ever going to let President T-Man go to war with anybody. He's not a war president. He's just not. I called this in 2016 in my first videos, or not 2016. I think it may have been, I don't know. Has it been that long? I don't know. But I called this in my first videos. They're not going to allow him to be a war president. Now, if he gets reelected in 2020, I doubt it either. However, President T-Man decides that says Iran's immediately backing down. They're not going to do nothing else. We're just going to put sanction on them, blah, 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 blah. Basically, he said a statement that wasn't worth anything, that didn't give any details of anything except for what had already gone on. Basically, all this was a show. Now, back to how all this fits together. Now, you've seen all the evidence I have. Okay, so what we know is that the supreme leader has cancer, terminal cancer. He's going to end up within the next few months to a year, 2 years maybe. He's going to be gone. The next popular person to take his place is likely would have been Qasem Soleimani. I can almost guarantee that. Like I said though, a lot of people say it has to be a religious figure. Right now, I say it don't have to be. Not when you're that popular. Not when you're that popular at all. Not when you have the support of the whole military. The military is not going to leave that man. Ryan's military is not going to leave that man. You've got the support. You've even got support, military support from other countries in the Middle East. He's not going to leave. However, he is responsible for a lot of T-acts in the Middle East. He does control Hezbollah. He does control a lot of people. He hates Israel. A lot of the Middle East hate Israel because of their connections with the United States, and also mainly have their religious beliefs, and so the supreme leader of Iran knew that it's a possibility, or a good possibility, that Qasem Soleimani would have taken over as the supreme leader. And when that happened, you're looking at a bad man controlling a lot of money. The supreme leader is worth anywhere between 95 and 200 billion dollars. That's what his money is. More than likely, I see most of that being given to the new supreme leader. Part of it. So the United States could not allow Qasem Soleimani, and the supreme leader could not allow Qasem Soleimani to be the new leader of Iran. A lot of people are like, yeah, I see where you're going with this, but I don't know if that's true because of all the other stuff that's happened. Well, like I said, it happened all of a sudden. It was a sudden attack. It was a sudden. A lot of people are calling it even an assassination. And I agree with that. I actually agree with that. I agree that it was an assassination. Ryan would have took more of a forceful response with the United States. Like I said, they tipped them off that they were going to do it, and for all their soldiers to take cover. That was the cover-up part. Had they not done that, people would have looked back on what had happened and said, well, why aren't they doing anything? Why isn't Ryan doing anything? They basically just destroyed a bunch of buildings as the cover-up part. That's why nothing ever came out of it. That's why Trump said, nope, we're not going anywhere else. And that's what I believe that's what I believe happened. I believe that the United States and the supreme leader of Iran took out Qasem Soleimani because he's a bad guy, and bad things would have happened to Ryan had he taken over. Had he been the leader of Ryan. You have to understand the supreme leader of Ryan he's got terminal cancer. He's 80 years old. He doesn't have long to live. He doesn't have long to live. So who's going to take over? Some person that doesn't have hardly any support of the people? He can literally go in and take over if he wanted to. He wouldn't need anybody's support except for the people he had. And maybe that's why all this happened. Maybe that is why he was taken out. A lot of people are saying, no, that's he'd done all this to the oil facilities, had done this and that, this and that. That happens every day there. It didn't have to be him. It didn't have to be Qasem Soleimani doing it. Everybody, that happens on a daily basis there. Somebody's always taking out somebody on a daily basis in the Middle East. They're always taking a ship. They're always seizing ships. They're always sending roadside bees somewhere. They're always shooting missiles somewhere. They're always doing something somewhere in the Middle East. Even in Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Hungary, everywhere. It's no different than any other day. The U.S. Embassy gets attacked on a daily basis there. All of them do. There's always protests there all the time. So why take out this one man all of a sudden? All of a sudden. I'm going to tell you that the U.S. could have cared less about the 4 U.S. servicemen they lost. And I hate to say that, but I don't say the U.S. as in we, the people, the U.S. I say the U.S. as in high-ranking military or the people who run our government. or the powers that control our government. They could care less about them 4 people. We lose people every day. So why take out a person who killed 4 service members all of a sudden? Now, I want to compare that. I want to compare, if you don't understand, I want to compare what I'm saying to an event that's already happened and how bad it got. So, I want to compare what would happen or what is happening with Qasem Soleimani, his support, his military support, his military backing, the people that they love him. He's charismatic. They love his character. He was a good looking Iranian man. But they basically worshipped him. Who else can you think of rose to power like that, took over the military, made a new political party, and then took control of a country, and then rained hell on the world? Who else can you think of that done that? Hitler. The exact scenario would have, and that's the exact scenario that I saw playing out. Hitler was charismatic. People loved him. They said he was nice. He knew how to talk to people. He knew how to get people riled up. He had a lot of supporters. He had a lot of countries like the guy. Qasem Soleimani was just like Hitler in his early days. Just like him. And the exact scenario was getting ready to play out. And I believe that the U.S. and the supreme leader of Iran was seeing that. They knew what would happen if somebody like Qasem Soleimani took over as leader in Iran after he passed away. And what happened after Hitler took over as power? The man just basically said, I'm the leader of a country. What I say goes. I'm going to take over power. I don't care what way I do it. I'm just going to destroy everything and everybody. And the leader of Iran knew that. He knew how bad of a guy Qasem was. So does the United States. They couldn't have a Hitler Part 2 play out. They couldn't. And I believe that's what was getting ready to happen. And I believe the CIA was part of that. That's the only way that could have gotten done is with the CIA. As far as all the evidence that I've shown, everything leads back to something other than this was just a military strike on a bad person. That there's something other than that. With all the evidence that I've shown, there's something other than that playing out. A lot of people are actually saying something just doesn't seem right. And when I investigate things, a lot of times when I investigate things, a lot of the information pans out. There's nothing happening. It is what it is. And that's why I don't make a lot of videos, because I'm not one of those YouTube guys who thinks everything is a C theory, and I don't. Some things are just what they are. But this, I do not see as a C theory. It was just a covert operation, and Ryan just took out one of their own because they knew he was a bad guy. They knew he was going to take over. They knew what was going to happen to the Iranian people. They knew what was going to happen in the Middle East if they let him take over once Ali Khamenei died. They knew what was going to happen. Like I said, it was Hitler Part 2. Because Qasim Soleimani had his own agenda. He had his own agenda. He was basically the guy everybody went to in order to get bad things done. He was the worst of the worst person in order to get bad things done. And the reason I showed you that funeral was to show you how well liked he was. And I hope now that when I'm saying that, you go back and look and see what Hitler's crowds looked like when he gave speeches. When people wanted to see Hitler, go back and look at his crowds. People wanted to touch him. They wanted to worship him. They would do anything just to be around him. And like I said, basically what I believe happened was they assassinated Qasim Soleimani. The missile, the revenge part of Iran was basically to cover up the plot that they had to assassinate him. They couldn't let people believe that they let somebody assassinate their own people and get away with it. Or they couldn't let people say, oh, well, they assassinated his own people because they was bad. Governments do this. What a lot of people don't understand is governments do this every day. Every day. That's what our CIA does. That's what the NSA does. They take out world leaders all the time. Why do you think? All right, if you don't believe me, go look back at Venezuela and go look back what happened there. Maduro had the backing of the military. He was doing all kinds of bad crap. The CIA went in. I even have a video of the CIA in a gunfight in Venezuela shooting at pro-Maduro activists on the street with known U.S. military hardware. You can go look at one of my videos about Venezuela. It's on there. The guys were CIA. So if you go back and this is not the first time that this has happened. Trust me, the CIA took this guy out, and the Ryan supremacy asked the U.S. to do it. Because the Ryan supremacy knew what was going to happen if he became a leader in Ryan. That's why all this went down. That's why all of it suddenly ended. That's the way it ended. That's why Trump said what he said. He basically said nothing's going to happen. People were upset that nothing was going to happen. They were. They were like, well, you're just going to let this happen and let this be the way it is? Well, of course. I wasn't expecting anything less. I wasn't expecting us to go to war with Ryan. I'm surprised that Trump even made a statement, to be honest. So, anyway, I wanted to show you all what I found and why I think that is what happened. And if you go back, look at the evidence yourself, start looking into it a little more, man, if you just put a couple things together, you can see that that's what happened. And if you use a little common sense, you can see that that's what happened. You know? So, anyway, I'm going to jump off here because, you know what? It's about my bedtime. And I appreciate you all watching the Bubba News. I appreciate you watching. I'm trying to make it to 1,000 subscribers. Man, I can make it to 1,000 subscribers on, or 1,000, people on Twitter. 1,000 followers on Twitter. You know. Actually, 1,014. I'm at 1,014. So, if you're looking at the screen, right up at the top there, those little white things right there, those are the passenger manifests for the Ukraine plane. Those are them right there. So if you go to my Twitter, look at it. None of them have any kind of evidence showing that anybody was from Canada. Now, unless they are Iranian/Canadian citizens and they were visiting over there, but they didn't say that. They just said Canadian citizens. That was it. They didn't say anything other than that. So, like I said, I'm always on Twitter. You can hit me up on Twitter. I wish I could get to 1,000 followers. I tagged Marfugel to watch this show, so hopefully he does. And so you know, I'm gonna read you something that I wrote on Twitter earlier before I go. It says, most of you are indoctrinated by the mainstream media. There's no getting through your head. You will always be a slave to official statements and using the MSM as a source of information. And a lot of people like that tweet. And the reason being is because it's the truth. A lot of people will watch this and say, "There's no way that can happen." We get our news from the mainstream media. There's no way that can happen. They tell us the truth. Blah blah blah. Yeah, that's why CNN viewers hate Fox News, is because all the MSM is real tight together. That's why one reports one thing, the other one reports something else. I mean, come on. So, one guy reported about the Ukrainian thing. He says, "Yeah, I agree with you now. They definitely look like they are all from the Middle East. Even the ones that would be Swedish can't be correct. I really wonder what's going on here." Exactly. I mean, I can show you the manifest if you'd like. The manifests are right up at the top here. Well, they were there. I don't know where they're at now. You know? You know, the manifest that was on that plane, every one of them was. Let's see if I can zoom in here. Yeah. Porjam Mansour. Maybe one. Just about all those names are from the Middle East. Just about every one of them. All 187 passengers. So, I'm just saying, you know, that's what happened with the Ukraine plane was just a mistake. It was something that happened. It wasn't Ryan Ryan probably feels horrible about it now. But nobody's going to claim responsibility over it. But like I said, what happened with the Ukraine plane? The Ukrainian Ryanians sent their old missiles over to Al-Assad base, and they didn't expect anything to come out of it. And one of them went astray. They hit the Ukrainian plane. That's exactly what happened. That's why nobody's talking about it. Nothing's ever going to come out of it. They even found the Iranian missile close by. And it was old. It was the old type of Iranian missile. I mean, I don't know how much more proof that I need to provide you that this was most likely a setup, not an FF or a false flag. It wasn't anything like that. Basically, Ryan wanted to take out one of their own because they didn't need him becoming the supreme leader after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei dies in a few years or a few months or a year. He's got cancer. They didn't need Qasem Soleimani taking over. They didn't need that. And neither did the U.S. And that they knew what that would mean for the Middle East if he did. You're talking of basically another Hitler. And the exact scenario how he came to power would have played out just like Hitler. Just like it. So, like I said, there's more proof that happened than anything. A lot of proof, actually. So, I hope you all enjoyed what information I brought to you. Well, not enjoyed it, but I hope you all got to see a different point of view of what may have happened. I hope that this gives you something else to think about besides what you're watching on the mainstream media, because half of what they said didn't make sense, especially news reports that the U.S. was given notice about the Ryan giving the U.S. notice, and Ryan saying, "Get your troops away. We're going to blow up these storage buildings," and that is a fact, like I said. And then the Pentagon saying, "Oh, all those Ryanian missiles were meant to kill our personnel." The Pentagon said that, not the other people. Pentagon. I mean, there's conflicting reports all over the place about what the Ryan meant to do with those missiles. And the reason why it's conflicting is because they're trying to cover up something else. They were trying to cover up another operation that had taken place. And that's exactly what that was. I knew when they said last night that Trump wasn't going to make a statement last night, I knew nothing was going to happen. And actually, a lady on one of the ladies on who is a correspondent from the White House, she said the exact same thing. She knew nothing was going to happen. She knew something was up too. She knew something didn't make sense, and that was a correspondent from the White House. She knew something didn't make sense. And I wish I could talk to her. I wish I could get her as a source for information from the White House. I bet you there's some stuff she would tell me. A lot of you, if you don't know my background, I'm not just another guy. I'm not just another YouTube guy. I've worked in construction work for the last 20 years. And doing so, I have worked for a lot of people. I've worked for government contractors. I've worked for federal government contractors. I've worked for the U.S. Navy. I've worked for the U.S. Army. I've worked for the National Guard. I've worked for the Marines. I've worked for all of them. I've actually done work for Lockheed Martin. I've also one of my first jobs, one of my first government jobs as a construction worker for the government was a federal job, and I actually worked for the FBI the very first when I was like 18 years old, and I was able to do some stuff for the FBI I'm probably allowed to talk about it now. I was actually had to move. I actually moved FBI files on a few people they were investigating. One of them, which is one of them, which the railroad industry knows about. He's highly decorated in the railroad industry. You can also, he was also written about, or part of the bluegrass conspiracy theory. This guy flew a plane. He flew cocaine into the United States from Colombia, and they was investigating him. It's been over the last 20 years, so that was back in the 70s. So the last 20 years, apparently he may have done something else. I don't know. I mean, I do know, but I can't tell you. So I'm just not another other guy. There's things that I've been told. There's things that I know that I can't say. There's things I know about what Lockheed Martin's doing right now. I can't say about that. I can't tell you anything like that. I don't want to go to prison. So the construction industry allows me a little bit of getting to know a little things about the government that a lot of people really wouldn't know about. So the government actually does have a lot of public contractors, and you know, I've even worked for celebrities. I've worked for celebrities, and I do have proof of those. I can probably show you those because I don't anymore. So I've worked for celebrities, people you like, people you know. I've worked for them. I lived in California for a few years. That's what I did in California, was work for celebrities. So I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just trying to give credibility to what I know, what I do, how I investigate, and all that. So, like I said, thanks for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed it. I've been live for an hour. Yeah, 0 frames dropped. 0. I had to increase my internet service in order to do this. And it's expensive to do this. Like, I have my new camera that I'm going to start using instead of this one. So when I go live, it'll actually look more professional. There's nothing better than a good DSLR camera. You know, there's nothing better than that. So, hopefully, all that pans out. So, I keep hearing coughing in the background, and it's not me. There's coughing coming through my speakers, and it's not me. So, anyway, I hope whatever happens next time when I try to start a stream doesn't happen. So, like I said, when I try to start at 9 o'clock, I literally watched my camera uninstall itself. And then when I went back in to see what was going on, I checked my router, and lo and behold, there's somebody on my connection under my router. So somebody hacked me right when I was going live. I've never had that happen before. I've heard of other YouTubers having that happen. But I'm a small channel with 430 subscribers. I've never had that happen. So if you're watching this replay, I hope you do. Share it, like it, subscribe. If you're a new person, welcome. And I hope you all like listening to me talk. And when something else comes up, I'm going to be here. I'm really into the Cascadia stuff. Big stuff going on there, man. Big stuff going on with FEMA. Big stuff going on with Cascadia. The USGS, big stuff going on with earthquakes, volcanoes, the magnetic pole shift. That's the main thing. Go visit, if you want a magnetic pole, daily updates, go visit Maverick Star. He does have the equipment to track the magnetic pole. He is doing the magnetic pole reversal stuff. Earthquakes tag along into that. So Adam and Eve story, CIA, that has part to do with that. So I'd like to do one real big segment on that. Noah's flood. It has part to do with the Adam and Eve story, magnetic pole shift. There's a video about that. So, like I said, go. What the heck is? So, I don't know why that coughing keeps coming through, because I don't know if it's me. I don't think it is. So anyway, go watch all that stuff. I hope everybody heard me okay. And this is Disclosure TV. And we are out of here.
May God be with you. This is not a test.